How does between subjects experiment differ from within subjects experiment? Now, as you can see on the screen, the names for these two types of experiments are actually very long. But the difference between them is very simple. It all comes down to how you assign participants to your experimental conditions. So let's have a look at it. Let's say you have designed two advertisements, and now you would like to test their effectiveness on consumers. They are shown here on the screen. Group 1 is advertisement 1, and Group 2 is advertisement 2. So when we talk about between subjects design, that basically means that different participants would be allocated to different conditions. And in this case, I randomly assign participants to the groups, and I'm saying, okay, randomly, you guys will be exposed to advertisement 1, and you guys will be exposed to advertisement 2. After the exposure, we measure liking of the advertisements, the appeal in the advertisement, and purchase intentions if we are testing the effect on the brand. But when it comes to the within subjects design, the logic is slightly different, and the approach in terms of the allocation to the groups is also different. In this case, the same group of participants will be allocated to all of the conditions. So visually, it would look like this. I would not split them into two groups, but I would say, okay, each of you will watch advertisement 1 and then advertisement 2. This is why I have plus sign here. That would also suggest the next participant will also view both of the advertisements, and the same would take place for my third participant, the fourth participant, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the experiment, again, I would be measuring which of those advertisements was liked more, appealed more to consumers, and which one made them purchase the brand more. Another really cool way to remember the difference between and within subject design is to remember the word between. When we are dealing with between subjects experiment, we're actually comparing between the groups, all right? And this is what is actually reflected in the name of this experiment. But when it comes to the within subjects design, because we are comparing for exactly same person, which of the advertisement resonated better, we're kind of comparing within that subject, within that participant. And this within forms part of the name for this type of an experiment. So hopefully it will be very easy for you to remember. Between, it's something that is compared between the groups, whereas within means we are comparing within the same respondent, within the same participant who took part in your experiment. Now, you may be wondering, are there pros and cons in these two experiments and which one is actually better? Well, there are always pros and cons in every type of research. If we look at the between subjects design, definitely one of the advantages of this type of an experiment is that there is no carryover effect. Each of those two groups view a different advertisement, and there is no carryover effect of advertisement 1 on, let's say, advertisement 2. Also, between subject design experiment is much simpler to design. You execute your manipulations and then you measure the effect on dependent variable. When it comes to the within subjects design, then you have to have measures in relation to each advertisement because you want to establish the difference between them on the number of attributes that you have hypothesized. The disadvantage of the between subjects design is that it requires more participants compared to the within subject design. It is also possible in the between subject design that there could be some potential individual differences which account for the effects on the dependent variable. However, if you have designed your experiment really well, if you have thought about all individual consumer differences, in other words, moderators, you can consider them as part of your conceptual framework, as part of your research, and measure them, which means that then you can account and statistically model for those individual differences. But of course, there could be some other confounding variables. When it comes to the within subjects design, again, there are some advantages and disadvantages. One of the advantages is that it actually requires fewer participants because exactly the same person is then exposed to advertisement 1 and advertisement 2. Here you have to have group 1 and then you have to have group 2 with the participants because each of them would view different type of your experimental treatment. In within subject design, it's also possible to better control for those individual variations compared to the between subjects design. Because exactly same person viewed two of the advertisement and you measure their effects on them. Whereas in the case of the between subjects design, if group 1 is substantially different from group 2, then you're comparing oranges and apples, and the effects that you may be observing in your dependent variable are not actually an outcome of your intervention, but an outcome of inherent differences between the groups from the start of the experiment, from the beginning. The disadvantage of the within subjects design is that there could be a potential carryover effect of the first treatment on the second one. But in this case, one of the ways to overcome this carryover effect or try to mitigate it and minimize it is to randomize the order in which those advertisements are actually shown to the participants. But if, on the other hand, you want to do a within subjects design and you want to see whether advertisement 1 followed by advertisement 2 exhibits a stronger effect compared to advertisement 2 followed by advertisement 1, that's a slightly different experimental design. So you always need to go back and ask what my research objectives are and what is it that I am trying to find out. Because in this case, your within subjects design has elements of between subjects design as well, because the order of those advertisements is varied in the example that I just have told you. If you ask me which experiment is better, well, the answer would be all of them are good. It all depends on what is it that you are trying to find out. If the best way to find the difference between the advertisement is to allocate different groups of people to different treatments, then you need to use between subjects design. But if you are trying to evaluate several brands, several advertisements, several objects, several people at the same time, then you actually have to use within subjects design, because this is exactly what you're after. You want to see whether for exactly same respondent, there are differences in terms of how they perceive, of how they process, and in terms of how they react to particular stimuli. In this case, only within subjects design can help you find an answer to this question. So it's always important to go back to your research objectives, to what is that you want to find out, and that will hopefully help you identify which of those two types of experiments would be better suited for your research purposes. Now, I hope the difference between within subjects design and between subject design is now clear to you. You feel empowered and you're really excited about running experiments.